This is the second part of Session 2, to introduce the examples of Japan's maintenance improvement for the utilisation of historic sites. Now, I will explain about some examples of case studies of maintenance improvement aiming at utilisation. There are 7 types of maintenance improvement for utilisation, as listed in the slide. This is an example of one. Surface presentation. This photo shows ruins of a castle in Hokkaido. The castle buildings already existed, at the latest, 500 years ago. The only information available was limited to that gained through the archaeological excavation survey. As traces of pillar holes and the size of buildings were confirmed, the information was maximally used, and maintenance improvement for surface presentation, as shown in the photo, has been completed. Although some say that this is not enough for understanding the site, in my opinion, it would be better not to present what is still unknown, thereby avoiding any misunderstandings. This is an example of 2, 3-dimensional presentation. The photo shows the site of an ancient Buddhist temple in Tokyo, categorized as Kokubunji temples, branch temples established in each province of ancient Japan. Shown in this photo is a podium or platform of a building. Although the presentation is rather close to the surface presentation, the slightly elevated platform may facilitate a better understanding for visitors of the lost temple rather than through the method of surface presentation. In the same way as in surface presentations, maintenance improvement has been undertaken based on information confirmed through the excavation survey. This is a replica of remains of an ancient well. The original well exists about 1 meter directly underneath this replica. There was the option to exhibit the original structure, but considering the deterioration of the remains and the difficulties in management, the full-scale replica was installed. This is another example of 3-dimensional presentation. This tumulus was constructed 1600 years ago. Before the maintenance improvement works, many trees had grown on the mound, and it was partly destroyed by urban development, so that the whole image of the tumulus could not be clearly observed. In the maintenance improvement project here, the excavation survey was conducted to restore the original shape of the tumulus when it was made. The surface is covered with grass in many cases, which is different from its original appearance in ancient times. Therefore, some explanation should be given on the site for the correct understanding of visitors. This is another case of the maintenance improvement of a tumulus. It takes a different approach from the previous example. Further examination was given to restore it closer to the original appearance at the time of construction. It provides a good reference to understand ancient tumulus mounds. However, it may contain some incorrectness in the presentation, since it is not identical with the original, even though everything is well based on the investigation. Now, let me share the current state and issues of tumuli. This tumulus is one of the World Heritage Monuments in Japan. There are quite a large number of ancient tumuli, and many of them are not allowed to be entered and are left intact. In principle, we do not intervene on such sites, but when the trees on a tumulus grow too big, they are likely to damage archaeological features. This problem is not limited to the tumulus. We should continue to examine the best approach to various historic sites, whether a site is kept intact or restored, while preserving the features. This illustration was created about 300 years ago. The picture shows Deijima, an artificial island in Nagasaki Prefecture, on which a Dutch trading post was established. Secluded Japan restricted overseas trading except for several ports, and Deijima was one of them. The feature of Dejima was the fan-shaped island. However, the area around Dejima has been reclaimed as a result of development works, and at present it is different from how it used to be. This is an aerial photo of the current Dejima site. There is almost nothing left of old Dejima due to the progressing urbanization and consequent reclamation around Dejima. For all that, the organizations concerned in this project have created a long-term maintenance improvement plan and are restoring the old appearance of Dejima step by step. This photo is proof of their efforts, in which you can see that Dejima, which was once a fan-shaped island, is gradually recovering its original shape. Some buildings are also reconstructed in Dejima. Referring to the pictures and photographs of those days, both the exterior and the interior of the buildings are precisely reconstructed. This maintenance improvement is implemented as a centennial plan. At present, half of the project has been completed. From this time forward, the highly difficult part of the scheme, such as representation of the outline of Dejima, is scheduled. Coordination with the developed area around the site and various investigations are required, and a fund to materialize the outcome is also needed. This photo shows a historical fort called Goryo-kaku in Hokkaido. This star-shaped fort, built about 160 years ago, is quite rare in Japan. In this fort, there was once a building referred to as Bugyosho, the Magistrate's office. The building shown in this picture is the Magistrate's office in Goryo-kaku Fort. As this Magistrate's office is extremely important to Goryo-kaku Fort, many people wanted its restoration. Consequently, the Maintenance Improvement Committee determined that it should be reconstructed. Reconstruction needs many historic data and materials. For example, the photo of the Magistrate's office we saw in the previous slide is one of the precious historical materials. This photo shows the state of an archaeological excavation survey. Information buried underground constitutes other precious data. This is a pictorial drawing of the plan of the Magistrate's office. Investigation of documentary records like this is also important, as well as the excavation survey. This photo is a composite image made by superimposing a drawing plotted from the pictorial drawing shown in the previous slide over the photo showing the state of the archaeological site after the excavation survey is completed. This composite image proves that the traces of the pillar holes, that is, post holes, confirmed through the excavation survey and the location of the pillars drawn in the pictorial drawing accord almost exactly with each other. The composite image also proves the accuracy of the pictorial drawing, considerably clarifying the characteristics of the building for which evidence was insufficient through the results of the excavation. These two historic materials have become a single piece of data, effective through composition. This is an old photo of the Magistrate's office introduced earlier. This is the only remaining photo of the original Magistrate's office. Consequently, there is much information that must be gleaned from the single photo, such as the height and pitch of the roof, the number of tiles, walls and fences, etc. It is extremely important to analyze such details. After researching and examining many historical materials, the blueprint for restoration has been completed as shown in this slide. As you see, this plan view is color-coded. Do you know why? The answer is very simple. Although many reference images are necessary for restoring a building, there was only a single photo available. Accordingly, they could not create reconstruction drawings for the non-coloured portion. In recent years, some historic sites have been utilised for opening to the public, or for the opportunity of hands-on learning during maintenance improvement work. It seems that many people are especially interested in utilisation projects, such as repair or reconstruction of the building. This is the reconstructed Magistrate's office. It seems that the building, which is the same shape as that shown in the old photo, is completed. The exteriors of the building have been faithfully reconstructed as well. However, as I mentioned earlier, not all of the entire building has been reconstructed. This photo was taken from the air. As you see, the upper and left portions of the building are not reconstructed, but exhibited in a form of surface presentation. The reason is that when historical materials and data are insufficient, reconstruction could cause misunderstandings for visitors about the characteristics of the historic site itself. This slide explains virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, often used recently at many historic sites, such as a maintenance improvement method. There is nothing built at the actual site, except for the trees planted in the position of traces of pillar holes, and historic buildings which existed there are reconstructed on the screen when you look through the smartphone, or etc. These methods will presumably increase further from now on when there is little information available for real reconstruction, or when real reconstruction is difficult due to on-site conditions or budget constraints. They are no match for the real thing in many aspects, I'm afraid. Still, they have advantages, including ease of modifying any mistakes that occur in a reconstruction. The photo on the right is a composite image demonstrating a case of maintenance improvement using AR. In reality, only the stone walls have been reconstructed, and the gate has been reconstructed using computer graphics. Visitors can see this realistic composite image through mobile devices. This photo shows an example of exposed types of presentation at the Nara Palace site. Excavated archaeological features of 8th century buildings are partially exhibited. Exhibition of original remains is an epoch-making approach and quite attractive. However, considering the risk of deterioration of the original remains, it may not be a good case of maintenance improvement from the aspect of preservation. It has been nearly 50 years since we opened this exhibition. The growth of mould or moss is observed in some parts, and salt damage is also confirmed. The Agency for Cultural Affairs held several meetings of experts to identify the cause of these troubles and to examine a prospect of the exhibition in future. For the time being, we keep observing the situation and continue this open exhibition in the original form. Exposed type presentation is a maintenance improvement method used all over Japan. This is another example exhibiting the excavated archaeological remains of an ancient guest house. Owing to the better environment, probably, this site does not have the problems observed at the previous Nara Palace site. To deepen the understanding of visitors, partial reconstruction of the building is added to the archaeological features. Then, I would like to introduce some guidance facilities. In principle, they should be built in the area adjacent to the designated historic site. Their main function is to help the understanding of the historic site, designed with consideration for the landscape. In many cases, they also serve as rest facilities. This is a guidance facility in a mountain castle site. As I mentioned, it should be built outside of the designated site in principle. However, this was established in the historic site. It is designed to represent a part of the castle structure, which had been dug through for the construction of a school in the past. This is a new style of guidance facility to provide experiences with video. The number of this type of guidance facility is increasing. The feature of this guidance facility is its external appearance. There was a local government office in the place of the guidance facility. This is built like a reconstructed old government office, and the community people feel attached to it when they use the facility. These are facilities for use as conveniences. Restrooms are provided at almost all sites. These facilities are frequently placed in the designated area, especially in the case of large sites such as castle sites. In the past, many of these facilities had an external appearance similar to historic structures, as shown in the pictures of the lower left and right. However, in recent years, they tend to be designed with a modern appearance, like in the picture at the upper left, to clearly differentiate them from the existing historic buildings in the site. In these days, the maintenance improvement of walking paths in historic sites is becoming more conscious of barrier-free design. Some sites consider the whole area, while others are limited to the design of toilet facilities. Although we do not have a unified policy at present, further discussion is expected. This bridge was newly built as a part of a maintenance improvement project for walking paths, having no historical grounds. It is presumed that a bridge was built in that time period, but this has not been confirmed. Although it was considered that such maintenance improvement could cause great misunderstanding, the bridge is indispensable for seeing the central part of the historic site. This type of problem is not limited to this site, and it is necessary to examine what to do in situations like this. This is the end of case examples of maintenance improvement for utilisation. In session 3, I would like to talk about various utilisation examples of historic sites after maintenance improvement. In session 3, I would like to introduce utilisation examples of historic sites after the completion of maintenance improvements, as well as our recent work of historic site management in Japan. Then, in the end, I'm going to share my ideas as a conclusion. The first example is a utilisation of a building in a site designated as a place of scenic beauty. The photo on the left is a garden and a guest hall. This type of building is usually used for viewing the garden. The photo on the right is a building that was used as a private hospital located in the designated site, and now utilised as a place to serve meals for visitors. This shows how the building is utilised. The hospital building is now used as a restaurant, and visitors can also observe the inside of the building of a former hospital. In this case, the usage is not directly related to its understanding of that original function as a hospital. This area is of a so-called marginal settlement, which is a settlement with an extremely aging population, and the utilisation of this cultural property has brought about community revitalisation. This is a case using a large space in a castle site. A lot of egg-shaped lights are installed, showing various colours. When you touch them, a different presentation will start. Please look at the video. This is another utilisation case at the same castle site. Stone walls are used as a projection screen. Shapes of animals move around, and it turns into pieces to show a different animal when you touch the stone wall. Please have a look. Thus far, I have discussed issues of maintenance improvement while showing case examples in Japan. Now, as the last topic, I would like to talk about the management of historic sites. The term management used here should include sustainability, feasibility, and relationship with local communities as a wider concept than the preservation and utilisation, while keeping preservation-utilisation prescribed in the law for the protection of cultural properties in mind. To explain the management of historic sites, I list these 7 points as the slide shows. I have already covered numbers 1 to 5, so I'm going to explain 6, framework, and 7, self-evaluation. For the point 6, this slide explains the establishment of a management framework and coordination. To manage a historic site, necessary factors are 1. Enhancement of a management framework of operations in implementation bodies, and 2. Assurance of the communication and the consensus building among parties concerned. In the actual operation, our research revealed that both the management framework establishment and the communication among the parties concerned were insufficient. In order to respond to these issues, it is necessary to enhance management organizations. Specifically, it is ideal to deploy expert staff suitable to each historic site. Furthermore, it is also important to share information and work jointly with local communities and relevant departments. When there is a facility to operate, it is effective to assign an organization for its operation via the designated manager system, which is a governmental scheme to assign NPO or other public service corporations to manage public facilities. This conceptual diagram shows a plan for the enhancement of a management framework. The upper side indicates a conceptual image of management. To support this management, there are 4 large groups of organizations. They are citizens, relevant authorities, management organizations, and administrations, which should preferably establish a horizontal alliance to manage historic sites. These photos show an example of successful coordination with local residents. They obviously have a good relationship with each other in the daily management and guiding of a historic site, as well as cooperation for events. This photo shows maintenance work of a garden. A good preparation by the garden owner and good cooperation with gardeners successfully maintain a beautiful garden. This is the garden that appeared in the previous slide. After the maintenance improvement work, it is extremely beautiful. For the techniques of garden maintenance like this, as well as castle stone wall repair techniques explained earlier, the Agency for Cultural Affairs has established a system through which 1. Selection of the gardening techniques and stone wall preservation techniques for cultural properties is made, and 2. Preservation organizations are authorized. The building shown in this slide is the site of Takeyama Jinya, the provincial governor's office in the Edo era, located in Takeyama City, Gifu Prefecture. Maintenance of old buildings requires various techniques, especially those for roofing, including periodical maintenance work. At this site, we have a good example of an established system, both in the management and in the succession of traditional techniques. The management organization of Takeyama Jinya employs roofing craftsmen as full-time staff, which is unique to this site. Accordingly, the roofs are regularly maintained before they get seriously damaged, keeping the maintenance costs on a rather moderate level. This system also serves to transfer the traditional roofing techniques. As you see, the roofing techniques handed down from the period of construction are still maintained today. This roofing style is referred to as itabuki, shingle roof, a method using a material called kure-ita. Lastly, I would like to talk about self-evaluation and follow-up. Under the current situation, almost none of the management organizations of historic sites carry out self-evaluation. The Agency for Cultural Affairs prepares a standard form of the self-evaluation sheet, while promoting implementation together with a follow-up sheet. In addition, the agency encourages the organizations to periodically review each plan. These are the contents of the self-evaluation sheet prepared and suggested for use by the Agency for Cultural Affairs. It is composed of 6 categories, respectively related to 1. Information provision as well as each plan. For example, have signs been installed? Have plans been formulated? Etc. 2. Preservation. For example, do you understand about the nature, structure, and other elements of an historic site? 3. Management. For example, do you implement proper management? 4. Maintenance improvement. For example, have you formulated plans? Do you understand the state of maintenance improvement? 5. Opening to the public and utilization. For example, understanding about the existing conditions of utilization. 6. Operation, management framework, and coordination. The use of self-evaluations may result in proceeding better with preservation and utilization. This slide shows a conceptual diagram of management. As this diagram indicates, entire process flows from provision of basic information to self-evaluation, explained earlier, are unified as a single flow. Then, the flow circulates as a system. In this way, I believe better preservation and utilization can be achieved. In addition, this cyclical system is further supported by a management framework and coordination. To make an outline of the management category, I would like to emphasize the following 3 important points. I firmly believe that the secure execution of the law for the protection of cultural properties should come first, as the minimum requirement. As you know, historic sites cannot be handled while defying the law. A cyclical process flow of management explained in the previous slide should come next as another important point. You should keep following the cycle. Lastly, self-support comes. Besides establishing a management framework and coordination, it is desirable to be financially self-sustained. It is important to maintain the sustainable status in a reasonable way. In the end, let me summarize my observation and the future prospect of maintenance improvement of historic sites. 1. The balance of preservation and utilisation is the most important. Both are equally important, and one of the roles of maintenance improvement is to keep the balance. 2. To attain the balance of preservation and utilisation, the comprehensive plan for the region should be developed, as well as a detailed preservation and utilisation plan and maintenance improvement plan for each historic site. 3. As a principle of maintenance improvement in Japan, owners or managerial bodies of the property are primarily responsible for the project, including management operations. Among these owners and managerial bodies, there is a great disparity in organisational and financial scale, which influences the maintenance improvement of their site. The agency should consider providing some measures for that. 4. As explained in the part of management, sustainable status should be established and maintained. 5. Up to the present, the national or local government has fully supported the protection of historic sites and others. However, it is getting more and more difficult in terms of budget and organisation these days. To resolve this situation, we need to have the correct understanding of current status and share the information in Japan, while studying the practices of other countries concerning their heritage protection and the style of maintenance improvement. I believe that we should explore the new initiatives without any delay. This is the end of my lecture. I would be happy if this lecture is helpful for your work. Then, let me show you one more slide. This is the building of the Agency for Cultural Affairs, where I work. The building is also registered as a tangible cultural property. While working here, we practice the preservation and utilisation of cultural property every day. Thank you for your attention.